Hi, I'm Brandon,
And I'm Mom.
and welcome back to Tansson Talks TV.
Yes, thank you for joining us again today.
Yeah, we always love doing this, and I'm especially excited for this one. And Mom, how are you doing today?
I am doing fine, Brandon, although it is a gloomy day, but I'm doing just fine.
Well, as I said, I'm glad for us to be speaking here, and Mom, we are continuing Animation April, and what show are we speaking about here today?
Today we're going to talk about Teen Titans.
Yes, Teen Titans is a animated superhero show produced by Warner Bros. Animation that released from 2003 to 2006 over 5 seasons. And today we're speaking about the first episode of the series titled Final Exam that aired on July 19th of 2003.
Yes. And Brandon, I say this was a fun one for me. I think we found a show that I had not seen. And so I'm going to give just a brief synopsis of this particular episode. Um, and the Teen Titans are surprised by an ambush by recent graduates of the Hyde Academy of Extraordinary Young People. The team must pull together to fight off these new enemies. And so that is my very brief synopsis of this episode. So those watching are going to have to go back and watch that particular episode to get the full details.
Well, Mom, I'll allow for you to go right into your top 10 list for this episode.
Alrighty. For first of all, we're introduced to this character named Slade, and apparently Slade does not like the Titans. And at this time, there we do not know the reason for this. Um, Slade plans to use the top students of this particular the Hyde Academy to fight off the Teen Titans. Um, we learned the power of these three people who were in this particular class, these three the academy. We learned about the superpowers because we know we're talking about superheroes here from both areas. We learned the powers of these three individuals. We learned that Gizmo is a genius, and he's a genius because of his technology and hacking. We learned that Jinx gives bad luck to sorcerers, gives bad luck, and she's a sorceress. And we learned that Mammoth is a strong person. And then we meet the Titans. The Titans are actually the good group in this. And so, but the Titans themselves appear unorganized. And then we learn about a little bit about each of the characters, and that's what I'm going to include in this top 10 also. We learned that there's a character named Beast Boy. He's a vegetarian, but he has a power to turn into animals. We learned that Cyborg is robotic and human, and he can be detached. His body parts can be detached, and they still work. We learned that Raven is someone who controls switches or has some magical abilities, and we learned that she's kind of from far, far away. Um, we learn that there's a character named Starfire, and she flies. We know that she does not know the obvious things, and so, but she has this green energy blast. Batman's part of the group. We know that the Titans live on an island, and there's a big T there for their home. And then we also learn that the team gets better as they begin to work together. And those are my top 10, Brandon.
Well, Mom, thank you so much for your top 10.
You are welcome.
Yeah, and briefly analyzing this just a little bit further, so this series, Teen Titans, is based off of the DC comics of the same name, and overall that this was a show that aired on both Cartoon Networks and the kids block of the WB um, TV channel that existed back then, and yeah, overall this episode did a pretty good job at introducing us to the slate of characters, a little bit about each of their personalities, how they interact with each other, and overall how they have to come together to sort of attempt to defeat the enemies. And Mom, I'll allow for us to go right into our discussion.
All righty. So, first of all, what did I know about the show? Honestly, I didn't know anything. Let's see. I know that you and your brother both watched the show. Your brother, in particular, he knew quite a bit about the show, and I wish he could join us today to kind of give his insight. But as the mom coming in watching it, I knew very little except that they look like superheroes, and so I didn't know anything. I went into it blindly, and I will let the audience know that I had to watch it twice. The first time I watched it, I was really confused. The second time I watched it after your brother analyzed it for me, or I shouldn't say he analyzed it, he gave me details of what everything meant. Then I watched it again and it made much more sense. So that's what I say. What do you know about the show, Brandon?
So I will say that for me, while I have seen, I mean, some episodes in the past, that the show was more so one of the things where it was always on at a certain time, and so if the TV happened to be on during that time, I would watch it. But it wasn't really a show that I would like go out of my way to watch. It just happened to be on a lot. So I don't really remember much of it. The only part that I had really intentionally watched was that we had rented a DVD of the TV film Teen Titans in Tokyo, which I just found out was actually the series finale. So I didn't even know that back then, and I don't think I really understood that movie. So yeah, I don't really remember much of the show.
And it's so funny. Now, I think your brothers watched the Teen Titans in Tokyo episode, well, film that came on TV eventually, several times.
Yeah, I definitely think so.
Yes. All right. And theme song. Well, the little I remember the song I liked. It had a full theme song, so I was impressed that the cartoon had a full theme song. Um, it was catchy. I do not, as of right now, if someone played it, I wouldn't know it. But watching it the two times I did see it, I thought the theme song was catchy.
Yeah, I've definitely said that the theme song, personally for me, is a bit memorable. I don't remember the exact, you know, exactly how it goes along, but I I know the general overlying, instrumental theme to it. Like I would recognize it, just maybe not necessarily the words.
Okay, all right. And then, what kind of discussion do you want to have about the show, Brandon?
So I would say that, yeah, for me going through this episode, I feel like this did a pretty great job at sort of taking a combination as to what we would normally see from a first episode, but also for series that just sort of throw you into the action. So we don't necessarily go too much out of our way to, per se, describe each of the characters, but I will say that it appears that the characters weren't really like on the same page, at least at the start of this episode. But as the episode progressed and as the villains forced everyone to, well, sort of defeat them, to a sense, is that it sort of forced them to all to come together, and so you're able to see different qualities of the characters, which is more in line with first episodes. But in the same regard too, yeah, it does just straight start us off with the characters and the exposition. So yes, I would say it mostly falls in line with first episodes, more or less.
Yeah, I kind of thought so too. Although I thought they spent quite a bit of time initially at the beginning speaking about per se the enemies than they did the good people. So I was concentrating on them when I first started watching it. Then I was like, oh, these aren't the good people. And so yeah, so that for first episode, I thought they gave more detail about that than they did the regular characters in the show. But they did tell me enough so that I knew. When I watched it the second time, I knew kind of what was going on. And will you, Brandon? Will you pick it up and watch the show again?
For me, probably not. I mean, but I don't really remember much of anything about the series. I mean, it definitely was, I think, an enjoyable episode, but I don't know. It's not really per se my forte. But I mean, yeah, if it's on or we want to, I don't know, do brotherly bonding, sure.
All right, Brandon. I don't think I'll watch the show again. I think I watched. Um, your brother did show me some further episodes. We didn't watch them per se, but he did give me a lot of more explanation, which I thought was very great. That he was able to give me some insight a little later. He did say that he wanted us to mention that this particular episode foreshadowed quite a bit. So, because I didn't watch the show, I don't know what is foreshadowing, but he said that the first episode does foreshadow quite a bit. You could probably speak more on that than I can, but would I watch it again? Not really. However, if you told me we need to watch it, then I would. But I understood enough to kind of keep it going.
So let me go ahead and ask this. So right now, this is the fourth, right? Yeah. So right now, this is the fourth animated series that we have spoken about for this animation April. So thus far, where would this rank for you in terms of the series as to watchability, whether you'd watch them again?
Well, I guess if I were into this particular genre of animation, maybe I would watch more of it. But I'm not really into the per se superhero animation type. So I'm more into the realistic type. And as I kind of mentioned before, I'm not really into a lot of cartoons. So this would rank number 4 for me. Um, the believe it or not, Brandon, I think reflecting back on the ones that we've seen, I will probably go back and watch the Jetsons again because I was really shocked that I sat still and watched that one all the way through. I have seen all of the Scooby Doo's and the different variations. I can watch Scooby Doo if it comes on, I'll watch it. But I probably, in going back to watch the shows, I probably would watch the Jetsons because I'm a little bit more intrigued right now and subject to change at a later time. But if you're speaking about just the 4 that we've talked about.
Yeah, and I will make a note too that while the previous three series that we spoke about were made by um, Hanna-Barbera Productions, that this one, while it is not produced by them, they all are now under the same content library underneath Warner Bros. Animation.
Okay, good to know.
But Mom, is there anything else that you wanted to say for this discussion, or anything that potentially stood out to you?
Well, I'm glad that I was introduced to something new. I think that's something that we'll explore a little later when we have new things that are changing with our channel. That we are going to explore some things that maybe we have not seen before. And I think it's good for us to kind of look at some new things that we haven't seen and to decide if we want to watch the series a particular series per se going forward. And so it was nice to kind of expand my horizons a little bit and watch something a little different. And now I see what your brother's been watching.
Well, Mom, is there anything else that you'd want to say about this discussion of Teen Titans?
For Teen Titans, no, I don't have anything else to say about Teen Titans, Brandon.
All right. Well, Mom, I always enjoy doing this show, and I'm very excited for our final one of Animation April 2024.
I am too. Well, I'm excited too, Brandon, and we'll let the audience guess what it could possibly be. But we appreciate you watching this series with us.
Yeah, and I'm very excited for us to head into the last one. And yeah, definitely tune in for our next discussion and perhaps some fun surprises.
Yes, we can't wait to speak with you next week.
Yeah, well, we will see you next time. Have a wonderful day.
All right, bye everyone.